One simple move after meals drops blood sugar by 52%. Doctor shows how there exists a remarkable muscle, often overlooked and entirely unknown to most individuals, discreetly nestled deep within the confines of your lower leg. This unsung hero of your physiology remains hidden from casual observation, residing profoundly beneath the more prominent and visually discernible calf muscle. You will not catch a glimpse of it in the mirror, nor will its presence typically register in your daily sensations. Yet, despite its elusive nature, this small, concealed muscle possesses an extraordinary and truly vital superpower, one that holds profound implications for your metabolic health. When activated, this unassuming muscle possesses the unique capability to extract glucose or sugar directly from your bloodstream, accomplishing this feat without necessitating any intervention or effort from your pancreas, the organ traditionally responsible for blood sugar regulation. Compelling scientific evidence presented in a rigorous, peer-reviewed study conducted by researchers at the esteemed University of Houston has quantified the astonishing efficacy of this muscle's function. The findings revealed that individuals who consciously engaged this particular muscle while engaged in sedentary activities, yes, simply sitting down, experienced a significant reduction in their post-meal blood sugar spike, diminishing it by approximately half. This remarkable outcome was achieved without the need for strenuous gym workouts, restrictive dietary changes, or the reliance on pharmaceutical interventions. The profound benefits stemmed from nothing more than a single, simple, and subtle movement performed while seated at a desk. Once the intricate mechanisms behind this physiological marvel are fully comprehended, you will undoubtedly cease attributing that pervasive post-lunch energy slump, often colloquially known as the afternoon crash, to the inevitable march of aging or the indulgence in a particularly heavy meal. Understanding this intrinsic biological pathway empowers you to reclaim control over your energy levels and metabolic well-being. To truly grasp the genesis of the common after-meal energy crash, it is imperative to first establish a foundational understanding of glucose itself. Glucose, in its most elemental molecular configuration, is sugar, and crucially, it serves as the primary fuel source for nearly every cell and biological process within your body. The precise terminology, fuel, carries significant weight here. From the intricate contractions of your muscles to the complex computations performed by your brain, glucose is the indispensable energy currency. Your muscles avidly consume it, transforming it into kinetic energy. Your liver functions as a vital storage depot, hoarding glucose for future demands. And most critically, your brain, the command center of your entire being, is almost entirely reliant on a steady and consistent supply of glucose for optimal function. Disrupt the flow of glucose to your brain for even a mere few minutes, and the immediate consequence is a noticeable impairment in cognitive clarity and overall mental acuity. Therefore, it is crucial to recognize that glucose is not inherently detrimental. On the contrary, it represents a fundamental, non-negotiable prerequisite for sustaining life itself. The genuine metabolic challenge never lies with glucose in isolation. Instead, the crux of the issue manifests when an excessive quantity of glucose inundates your bloodstream too rapidly, overwhelming your body's intrinsic capacity to process and utilize it efficiently. When you consume carbohydrates, a broad category encompassing staples such as bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, virtually any sweet treat, and even certain fruits, your intricate digestive system meticulously breaks down these complex compounds into their simplest form, glucose. This newly liberated glucose then embarks on its journey into your bloodstream. This initial phase is entirely normal and represents a fundamental aspect of the human metabolic process. The true difficulties begin, however, when a substantial influx of glucose arrives almost simultaneously, creating a physiological bottleneck. To illustrate this phenomenon, consider the analogy of a garden hose. Envision a garden hose with its tap turned on gently, allowing a moderate and controlled flow of water. The water courses smoothly through the hose, which maintains its structural integrity without undue strain. Everything functions as it should. Now, imagine a sudden and forceful action where someone aggressively cranks that tap wide open. The hose immediately distends, its walls visibly bulge, and the material strains under the sudden, immense pressure. This vivid image closely mirrors the physiological stress and demands placed upon your delicate blood vessels during an acute and pronounced sugar spike. Your body's sophisticated internal regulatory systems swiftly detect this surge, dispatching an urgent signal to your pancreas, a relatively small, elongated organ strategically positioned behind your stomach. The directive conveyed to the pancreas is unambiguous and immediate. Release insulin and do so with utmost speed and efficiency. Insulin, a pivotal peptide hormone, can be conceptualized as a highly efficient biological delivery worker. Its fundamental mandate is to meticulously gather glucose molecules from the circulating blood and subsequently shepherd them into various cells throughout the body, where this glucose can be either immediately utilized for energy production or stored for future requirements. A portion of this glucose is transported to your working muscles, providing the immediate fuel for physical activity. A substantial quantity is also directed to your liver, where it undergoes a process of conversion and compaction, being stored as glycogen. Glycogen essentially functions as your body's critical emergency fuel reserve, readily accessible when energy demands surge. However, the scenario becomes particularly intricate and problematic when your body's storage capacities are already saturated. If your muscle glycogen stores are already at their maximum, your liver is already replete with its glycogen reserves, and you find yourself in a state of prolonged inactivity. Perhaps leisurely settled on a couch after a hearty dinner, your body is still compelled to process the remaining surplus glucose. It does not simply discard it. Instead, in a testament to its efficient, albeit sometimes inconvenient, storage capabilities, it meticulously tucks this excess glucose into your adipose or fat cells. And once glucose is sequestered within these fat cells, its retrieval for energy utilization becomes an exceptionally arduous and challenging process. Concurrently, your diligently working insulin, having performed its glucose clearing duties perhaps a little too effectively in response to the initial surge, has inadvertently caused your blood sugar levels to plummet. This drop can sometimes be even lower than the baseline level prior to your meal. This precipitous decline in blood sugar is the physiological event widely recognized as the crash, and it is the direct biochemical origin of the myriad symptoms that millions of individuals experience and describe on a daily basis. As your blood sugar precipitously falls, your brain, which as previously established is almost entirely dependent on a consistent supply of glucose for its operational integrity, enters a state of panic. It initiates a widespread internal alarm, broadcasting an urgent message throughout your system. Energy reserves are critically low. Immediate corrective action is required. This alarm triggers a cascade of physiological responses. A profound wave of tiredness and lethargy envelops you. Your cognitive faculties diminish, resulting in a distinct sensation of mental fog. Your thought processes become sluggish and muddled, akin to moving through treacle. Your eyelids grow heavy, and a pervasive sense of weariness sets in. And then, almost inevitably, arises that distinct, almost primal, and desperately urgent craving for something sweet, right now. The allure of a cookie, a candy bar, or a handful of chocolate from the office kitchen becomes almost irresistible. It is imperative to understand that this experience is not a manifestation of personal weakness, nor is it indicative of a deficit in willpower or a flaw in your character. It is, in its purest form, an undeniable consequence of underlying biochemistry. Your brain is merely executing the very directive it has honed through eons of evolution, safeguarding itself from the perilous state of fuel depletion by vociferously demanding an immediate replenishment. The rapid ascent of sugar was followed by an equally rapid descent, leaving your brain in an energy conservation mode, compelled to decelerate or deprioritize any function. deemed non-urgent in order to sustain its essential life-preserving operations. This precisely delineates the profound physiological realities at play when you encounter that infamous wall in the mid-afternoon. Clinical practice offers numerous compelling case studies that perfectly encapsulate this widespread metabolic pattern. Consider the narrative of a woman named Linda, approximately 44 years of age, who functions as a highly competent and astute accountant. In the mornings, Linda consistently demonstrates sharp cognitive abilities and an impressive capacity for her intricate work. However, with an almost clockwork predictability, every afternoon following her lunch, she invariably encounters a debilitating mental and physical barrier. Her head becomes shrouded in a dense fog, rendering her utterly incapable of concentrating on the complex numerical data that lies before her. And with unerring regularity, around 3 p.m., she finds herself compelled to walk down the hall towards the vending machine, where she purchases a chocolate bar, seeking an immediate, albeit temporary, reprieve. For many years, Linda had internalized and reiterated the same self-deprecating narrative. She simply possessed an irrepressible sweet tooth, or perhaps she lacked the requisite discipline to resist these cravings. Yet, this self-assessment was never the underlying truth of her experience. Her brain, in response to the preceding meal's impact on her blood sugar, was merely executing the same predictable and relentless biochemical cycle, day after day, every single afternoon. The ingested chocolate provided a fleeting surge, momentarily elevating her glucose levels, only for them to precipitously crash once more, perpetuating the cycle. By 6 p.m. in the evening, Linda felt utterly depleted and wrung out, despite the fact that her actual professional workload for the day had been entirely unremarkable and consistent with her usual responsibilities. Her profound exhaustion did not originate from her work. Rather, it was a direct consequence of enduring a relentless blood sugar roller coaster, a phenomenon that no medical professional had ever adequately explained to her. It is critically important to understand that every single instance of these internal blood sugar roller coasters exacts a tangible cost from your body. Each abrupt spike in glucose levels necessitates and compels your pancreas to dispatch a surge of insulin. This happens once, then twice, then 100 times, then 1,000 times, accumulating over the span of years. Inevitably, this continuous overexertion leads to a significant metabolic debt that eventually comes due. If any aspects of this physiological narrative are beginning to resonate with your own daily experiences, an immediate positive action would be to engage with this content by hitting the like button. This simple act significantly aids the algorithm in ensuring that other individuals who are experiencing this precise metabolic pattern are able to discover and benefit from this insightful video. So, what exactly constitutes the long-term ramifications of this relentless metabolic strain? Herein lies a crucial physiological reality. Your pancreas is not endowed with infinite capacity or an inexhaustible working life. It possesses a finite functional lifespan, and each instance of excessive insulin release, necessitated by a rapid glucose spike, incrementally contributes to its wear and tear, gradually diminishing its efficiency and reserve capacity. Initially, in its youthful vigor, the pancreas effortlessly manages these demands, keeping pace with surprising ease. However, over time, its responsiveness begins to wane, gradually slowing down. Following this, your body's cells, which were once highly receptive to insulin signals, begin to exhibit a diminished sensitivity, effectively starting to ignore the hormonal directive. This specific physiological state carries a well-defined medical designation: insulin resistance. In more accessible, non-technical terminology, insulin resistance signifies a condition where, despite an ample and often elevated presence of insulin circulating within your bloodstream, your cells have, for all practical purposes, ceased to respond effectively to its signals. It is akin to a scenario where the crucial key, which is insulin, and the corresponding lock, which represents the cell's glucose receptor, are both present, yet the lock itself has become jammed, rendering the key ineffective. To circumvent this cellular unresponsiveness and compel glucose to enter the cells nonetheless, your pancreas is forced into an even more strenuous mode of operation, releasing increasingly larger quantities of insulin. This compensatory mechanism perpetuates year after year, with your pancreas laboring harder and harder, yet yielding progressively diminishing returns in terms of effective glucose management. The insidious nature of this condition is further compounded by the fact that, for a considerable duration, your routine blood tests may continue to present within ostensibly normal parameters. There is no definitive medical diagnosis, no glaring red light indicator that explicitly signals the underlying metabolic dysfunction. However, the subjective experience of persistent fatigue is undeniably real. A subtle but steady accumulation of visceral, abdominal fat begins to creep in. The intense cravings for sugary foods and carbohydrates become relentless and increasingly difficult to suppress. You endure these disconcerting symptoms for years, yet remain unable to identify any clear or dramatic medical pathology. It often feels premature or even trivial to consult a doctor, as nothing appears to be overtly or catastrophically broken, but an undeniable sense of something being off persists. Ironically, this precise juncture, before any official diagnosis has been made and before serious complications manifest, represents the most opportune and indeed the easiest moment to fundamentally alter the trajectory of your metabolic health and reverse these adverse trends. Another prevalent pattern frequently observed within the domain of primary medical care strikingly illustrates the subtle onset and progression of these metabolic challenges. Consider the case of Mike, a 52-year-old man who presents at his doctor's office primarily lamenting a nagging back pain. At first glance, this complaint appears entirely unrelated to the discussion of sugar metabolism, does it not? However, during the course of their conversation, Mike casually mentions, almost as an afterthought, that for approximately the past 3 years, he has experienced a persistent and insatiable hunger, even immediately following a substantial and satisfying meal. Within an hour or so, the gnawing sensation of hunger returns, compelling him to seek more food. Prompted by this revelation, the doctor wisely orders a comprehensive blood work panel. Mike's fasting glucose levels, upon analysis, return at the very upper limit of the established normal range. Critically, this reading does not yet qualify as a diagnosis of overt diabetes, nor even officially as prediabetes according to conventional thresholds. Nevertheless, to a seasoned and experienced clinician, that particular number communicates a profound and concerning narrative. It strongly indicates that Mike's pancreas is currently operating near the very extent of its functional capacity, consistently working overtime to manage his glucose load. His pancreatic reserve, the buffer against metabolic stress, is perceptibly diminishing. The sole reason this critical information had not been brought to his attention previously was that, strictly on paper, all his biomarkers still appeared technically within the accepted normal range. If this insidious process of metabolic dysregulation is allowed to continue unabated, without timely intervention, the state of insulin resistance will inevitably and gradually transition into prediabetes. Subsequently, prediabetes, if left unaddressed, inexorably progresses into full-blown type 2 diabetes. Once an individual is confronted with a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, the array of debilitating complications begins to manifest, often with serious and far-reaching consequences. These complications can encompass significant damage to the delicate network of your blood vessels, leading to cardiovascular issues. Problems with vision, including retinopathy, become a concerning possibility. Kidney dysfunction, eventually progressing to kidney failure, represents another severe risk. Furthermore, individuals often experience slow-healing wounds, particularly on their feet, which can escalate into severe infections and even lead to amputations. It is crucial to emphasize that this is not intended as a sensationalized scare story. Rather, it is an accurate and sobering depiction of the profound and and tangible realities that medical practices across the United States routinely confront every single week in their clinical settings. However, amidst these serious considerations, there is profoundly encouraging news. While your metabolic markers and blood glucose numbers are still situated within the acceptable normal range, that critical window of opportunity, the entire cascade of progression towards insulin resistance, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes can be effectively halted, significantly slowed, and, in a great many instances, comprehensively reversed. And the pivotal, transformative tool you require to achieve these outcomes is far simpler and more accessible than you might ever imagine. That immensely powerful tool is none other than your own muscles. Within the intricate architecture of every single muscle cell in your body reside microscopic structures known as mitochondria. While remembering the specific term mitochondria is not strictly essential for grasping their significance, what truly matters is a comprehensive understanding of their vital function. These mitochondria operate akin to tiny, highly efficient cellular furnaces. Their primary role is to actively seize glucose molecules from your circulating bloodstream, subsequently metabolize or burn them, and in doing so, convert them into essential energy that powers both muscular movement and generates vital body heat. When you are in a state of complete stillness, perhaps sitting motionlessly, these cellular furnaces are operating at a minimal, low pilot light setting, requiring very little fuel. However, the precise moment a muscle initiates even a subtle contraction, these dormant furnaces instantly flare up, dramatically escalating their metabolic activity. They commence burning glucose at a significantly accelerated rate, responding directly to the increased energy demand. Herein lies a particularly fascinating and metabolically advantageous aspect of muscle function. Under normal physiological circumstances, glucose requires insulin to act as a crucial key to unlock the cellular door, thereby gaining entry into the cell. Without this insulin key, glucose cannot readily access most cells. However, an actively contracting muscle cell possesses a unique and highly beneficial backdoor mechanism. It bypasses the need for the insulin key entirely, effectively opening its own door directly. This represents a completely distinct and separate biological mechanism, and it is instantaneously activated the very moment a muscle contraction occurs. Consequently, glucose flows directly and unimpeded from the bloodstream straight into the muscle cell, where it can be immediately utilized for energy. Crucially, your pancreas is not even required to engage in this process. Your blood sugar levels drop efficiently, your insulin response remains calm and stable, and the entire blood sugar roller coaster, with its associated peaks and crashes, is effectively prevented from ever commencing. This profound physiological insight explains why the approximately 90 minutes immediately following a meal constitute the single most valuable and metabolically significant window of opportunity within your entire day. This is the precise period when glucose levels are naturally on the rise, and it is the exact moment when your muscles are optimally positioned to directly capture and utilize this glucose, preventing it from being unhelpfully sequestered away in your fat cells, and crucially, before your pancreas is compelled to initiate another substantial insulin release to manage the surge. So, the pertinent question arises: which specific muscle performs this critical glucose clearing task with the greatest efficiency and impact? This is where the previously introduced hidden muscle in your calf muscles re-enters our detailed discussion. But before we delve deeper into this particular muscle, a brief but important reiteration: the profound impact of muscle activity on blood sugar regulation is a scientifically established and incontrovertible fact. The evidence supporting this is robust and widely accepted within the scientific community. However, its effectiveness is contingent upon a singular vital principle: consistency. A single casual walk undertaken after one meal will undoubtedly aid in regulating the blood sugar response for that specific meal. but it is the consistent, daily habit of incorporating movement after meals that progressively and profoundly rewires your entire body's sophisticated glucose handling mechanisms. Through this sustained engagement, your cells gradually become more sensitive and responsive to insulin signals. Your muscles develop a heightened hunger or affinity for readily absorbing circulating sugar, and your entire metabolic framework undergoes a beneficial shift towards greater efficiency and resilience. The true magic word here, therefore, is not intensity of exercise, but rather unwavering consistency in incorporating post-meal movement. Now let's turn our attention to the specific muscle in question, located on the posterior aspect of your lower leg, just below the knee joint, lie two principal muscles arranged in a stacked configuration. The muscle that is readily visible, forming the characteristic bulge in your calf, is known as the gastrocnemius. This is the muscle primarily engaged when you execute movements like standing on your toes, providing powerful propulsion. However, situated directly beneath the gastrocnemius, deeper within the anatomy of the lower leg, resides a second, lesser-known muscle called the soleus. A vast majority of individuals are entirely unaware of its existence. It offers no visible presence in the mirror, and its isolated contraction is not easily discernible or felt on its own. And yet, when considering its capacity to efficiently extract glucose from the bloodstream pound for pound, no other muscle in the human body can rival its metabolic prowess. A few years ago, a groundbreaking experiment conducted by dedicated researchers at the University of Houston captivated and significantly influenced the scientific community, particularly in the realm of metabolic health. Their seminal study was formally published in the highly respected peer-reviewed journal iScience in the year 2022. The methodology was elegantly simple, yet profoundly impactful. Participants in the study were instructed to sit in a chair and perform one very specific low-impact movement after consuming a meal. This movement involved repeatedly lifting and lowering their heels while ensuring their toes remained firmly planted on the floor. Crucially, this activity could be seamlessly integrated into any daily routine while engaged in computer work, watching television, or conversing on the phone. Absolutely no other aspect of their daily schedule or lifestyle needed to be altered. The only discernible physical activity was the rhythmic movement of the back of their foot. The ensuing results were so striking that they genuinely astonished even the seasoned researchers themselves. The data unequivocally demonstrated that the after-meal glucose spike experienced by participants plummeted by an astounding figure, roughly 52%. Furthermore, the release of insulin, the hormone that signifies pancreatic effort, decreased by nearly 60%. This second numerical finding is particularly significant, as it powerfully indicates that the pancreas was barely required to engage its glucose-regulating functions. The soleus muscle was so extraordinarily effective at drawing glucose out of the bloodstream that a substantial insulin response was simply rendered unnecessary. You possess the immediate opportunity to experience this phenomenon firsthand, even as you are presently engaging with this video content. Simply place both of your feet flat and firmly on the floor. Maintain firm pressure on your toes, keeping them pressed downwards. Now, gently and deliberately lift your heels slowly upwards, and then allow them to return smoothly back down to the floor. Repeat this action, up, then down, at a comfortable pace that feels natural to you. There is no requirement for speed, no need for forceful exertion. This discrete exercise can be effortlessly performed at your office desk, while relaxing on your couch, or even in a bustling coffee shop without drawing any attention from those around you. Engaging in this simple heel-raising exercise for approximately 10 to 15 minutes after a meal is demonstrably sufficient to elicit a genuine and measurable positive impact on your blood sugar regulation. While the soleus muscle stands out as the single most efficient individual tool for this purpose, it is by no means the only option. The more muscles you actively engage and involve after consuming a meal, encompassing your legs, back, core, and arms, the greater the volume of glucose that is efficiently drawn out of your bloodstream, and the more rapidly this crucial metabolic clearance occurs. Fortunately, there are several additional highly practical options for post-meal movement, all of which can be seamlessly integrated into a normal day without necessitating any specialized planning, equipment, or drastic lifestyle overhaul. The first of these straightforward strategies is simply taking a walk after eating. A compelling study beautifully illustrated the efficacy of this approach. Two distinct groups of participants were provided with an identical meal. Following consumption, one group remained sedentary, sitting quietly. The other group, however, embarked on a gentle 10-minute walk at an easy, unhurried pace. The results were unequivocal. The walking group's peak blood sugar level was approximately half of what was observed in the group that remained seated. It is vital to underscore that we are not advocating for an hour of intense cardiovascular exercise on a treadmill, nor are we suggesting arduous interval training. We are merely referring to a brief 10-minute stroll at a comfortable pace. The specific route or environment is entirely inconsequential. You can easily step outside into the fresh air, or if indoor convenience is preferred, you can simply walk laps around your living room while concurrently scrolling through your phone. Even ascending and descending the stairs within your building a few times can yield significant metabolic benefits. The sole overarching principle here is to actively move your body instead of remaining sedentary after a meal. The second highly effective option involves performing squats, and these exercises tend to yield even more rapid benefits. The underlying physiological reason for their accelerated efficacy is straightforward. Squats powerfully engage and activate the largest muscle groups throughout your entire body, primarily targeting your robust thigh muscles, quadriceps and hamstrings, and your gluteal muscles. The principle is simple yet profound. Bigger muscles, when activated, are capable of pulling out a greater quantity of glucose from the bloodstream per minute, thus accelerating its removal. The technique for performing squats is remarkably uncomplicated and accessible. Begin by standing tall, with your feet positioned approximately shoulder width apart, and your toes pointing slightly outwards for optimal balance and joint alignment. Gently lower your body downwards as far as feels comfortable and natural for your individual mobility. There is no strict requirement to achieve a position where your thighs are parallel with the floor. Focus on controlled movement within your comfortable range. Throughout the movement, maintain a straight and engaged back. Ensure that your knees track in the same direction as your toes, preventing them from collapsing inwards, which can put undue stress on the knee joints. Then, with controlled power, push back up to the starting standing position. Aim to complete 10 repetitions, executed slowly and with deliberate control. A clever and practical trick to anchor this habit into your daily routine is to link it to a pre-existing activity. For example, turn on your kettle to boil water for your after-dinner tea, and while it heats up, complete your set of squats. This provides roughly the ideal amount of time to give your freshly circulating glucose a useful metabolic destination. The final tool in this repertoire, and arguably the most consistently underrated, is the simple yet powerful act of housework. The irony here is that most people already engage in household chores. The critical distinction, however, lies in the timing. Typically, people undertake cleaning activities either before they consume a meal or an hour or more afterwards, by which time the sugar has already traversed its less desirable metabolic pathways, having been potentially stored as fat or having triggered a significant insulin response. The truly impactful trick is to perform these chores immediately after eating. Engaging in approximately 15 minutes of cleaning up after dinner, in terms of its profound effect on glucose control, is roughly metabolically equivalent to taking a brisk 10-minute walk. Consider activities like washing the dishes by hand. You are standing, you are moving, and your muscles are engaged. Wiping down kitchen counters, sweeping the kitchen floor, or systematically putting various items back into their designated places all involve active body movement and muscle engagement. As your body moves and your muscles work, your circulating glucose is effectively channeled towards useful energy production rather than contributing to a blood sugar spike or being stored as fat. Moreover, a significant advantage of this approach is that you do not even require additional motivation, as these chores are often tasks you are going to accomplish anyway. Simply by shifting their timing, you unlock profound health benefits. What is truly captivating and deeply appealing about these 4 practical tools, the heel raises, the post-meal walk, the squats, and strategic housework, is their remarkable ease of integration into virtually any existing lifestyle without requiring a drastic rearrangement of your daily routine. You are not obligated to wake up at an earlier hour to accommodate them. There is no financial burden associated with a gym membership, which can range from a modest $20 a month to several $100s for premium facilities. You do not need to invest in specialized workout attire. The expense of a personal trainer, often a considerable financial commitment, is entirely unnecessary. The fundamental behavioral shift required is simply to cease remaining completely sedentary for a mere 10 or 15 minutes immediately following a meal. Or, if a persistent desire to sit remains, then simply sit and discreetly wiggle your heels. It is genuinely that straightforward. Now, there is a particularly important and distinct pattern within this metabolic discussion that warrants specific emphasis: the rate at which insulin resistance can develop, and conversely, the speed and efficacy with which you can successfully rebuild your insulin sensitivity is significantly influenced by your age. After the approximate age of 40, muscle mass naturally begins a gradual but steady decline if it is not actively and consistently maintained through physical activity. Medical professionals refer to this age-related muscle loss as sarcopenia. The direct physiological consequence of having less overall muscle mass is a proportionally smaller and less efficient glucose disposal system within the body. A diminished glucose disposal system, in turn, translates into increased pressure and a heavier workload on your pancreas as it is forced to compensate for the muscle's reduced capacity to absorb glucose. This escalating pressure further intensifies the loudness and severity of the blood sugar roller coaster, making its peaks and troughs more pronounced and metabolically taxing. To help better understand the demographic engaging with this valuable content and to gauge the immediate relevance of this topic for our audience, a quick comment below indicating your age would be incredibly helpful and appreciated. Let us now synthesize all of these crucial insights and practical recommendations into a coherent summary. In the immediate short term, if you consistently initiate movement shortly after consuming your meals, you will, with remarkable speed, begin to perceive a tangible and positive difference within a matter of days. That pervasive post-lunch mental fog, which often clouds cognitive function, will noticeably recede. Your head will feel distinctly clearer and more alert throughout the afternoon hours. Your energy levels will cease their precipitous decline, no longer falling off a cliff an hour after eating. And, critically, that powerful, almost urgent and insistent craving for something sweet will quietly and progressively begin to loosen its grip, losing its compelling hold over your choices. In the long term, by adopting these simple yet profound habits, you are embarking upon an endeavor of even greater and more enduring significance. You are systematically alleviating the chronic burden and excessive workload placed upon your pancreas, each and every instance where your muscles directly and efficiently handle the circulating glucose, bypassing the need for a significant insulin response, provides a crucial and much-needed respite for your pancreas. Cumulatively, year after year, these breaks for your pancreas add up to a monumental difference. This sustained metabolic support represents the fundamental distinction between maintaining robust metabolic health well into your 60s and 70s, enabling you to live with vitality and resilience, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, drifting towards the debilitating cascade of insulin resistance, then prediabetes, and ultimately type 2 diabetes. The choices you make regarding post-meal movement today profoundly influence your metabolic destiny tomorrow. So here is a concise and actionable summary of what is eminently worth incorporating into your daily practice, starting now. Cultivate a heightened awareness of your activities during the critical 15 to 20 minutes immediately following each meal. Make a conscious effort to try the seated heel raises at least once today and pay close attention to how your body and mind respond. It is highly advisable to proactively discuss your fasting glucose numbers with your physician during your next scheduled appointment. Furthermore, if your doctor deems it appropriate and beneficial for your specific health profile, inquire about obtaining a hemoglobin A1C test, which provides a valuable snapshot of your average blood sugar levels over the preceding 3 months, offering a more comprehensive metabolic picture. If you are currently utilizing medications such as metformin or taking supplements like berberine or magnesium glycinate for blood sugar support, it is absolutely paramount that these discussions about any potential changes or new routines are held directly with your healthcare provider who possesses your complete medical history and context, rather than relying solely on information from a YouTube channel. Absorb and assimilate the valuable insights presented in this video, but always, without exception, consult with a qualified professional who has a holistic understanding of your full health picture before implementing any significant changes to your medical regimen or lifestyle. If you found genuine value and gained beneficial insights from this content, please consider expressing your appreciation by dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. Your engagement is instrumental in helping this channel to continue its growth and reach a wider audience. Our ambitious goal here is to achieve 300,000 subscribers, and every single one of your contributions brings us closer to realizing that aspiration. For a more succinct, practical checklist version of the key takeaways from this video, please scan the QR code that is currently displayed on your screen. This will direct you to my Telegram channel, where you will find comprehensive checklists and supplementary follow-up posts designed to further support your journey towards improved metabolic health.